And I was at the stage then where you knew better, but if you still did it, it wasn't a good way to go. So Mom was right there, still looking out for me. If somebody's got a comment or something, just make it. The next one, I'm 22 years old. I'm getting there, Bobby. I'm getting there fast. It's going by. I'm sorry CJ's not back yet. Decided to get married. I robbed the cradle. She was only 18. And the stakes, the way I wrote it, in life were getting a lot bigger, a lot deeper. I did not normally go into my mom and dad's bedroom at 10 o'clock at night at that stage in my life. But this particular night, I tapped on the door. They were reading magazines or whatever they did. And I told them what we had planned to do, planned to get married. And guess who of the two said something? Chubb, she said, don't forget, you've got a responsibility. Just as plain as that. I didn't realize the full impact of that statement till later. What kind of responsibility did I have? She was reminding me of, I wrote some things down here. She reminded me, and without saying it, of the commitment we had made to the Lord, for one thing. She was reminding me that I was fixing to have to give a lot of myself, right? Share your faith that you have, putting others first. You could start making a list and it would go a lot longer than that. And living out the example. The part of sharing your faith, which sometimes was weak at that stage in life. It kind of came and went. When she said those things, it reminded me of 2 Peter, also, chapter 1, I believe it is. Turn there for just a second. 2 Peter chapter 1, about verse 12. And he said this. He said, I will always remind you of these things, even though you know them and are firmly established in the truth you now have. I think it's right to refresh your memory as long as I live in the tent of the body. Skip down to 15. I'll make every effort to see that after my departure, you will always be able to remember these things. So we know. You know what's right. I knew what was right at the time, but it needed to be refreshed. It needed to remind me. I want somebody else to say something. I've been talking too much. If y'all, yes, ma'am.
I'll relay a quick story that goes along with the one
Sure.
where you were late trying to sneak back home. But this was in Alice, Texas. I was 16 years old. We were very best friends with a couple, had my parents. There was like 5 families that we were all close with. The Galloways were, one of those families, and they had a son that was 2 years older than me, and he had a paper route. He ran a paper route. So we were all hanging out one night, Saturday night, and without saying, Donnie said, hey, you want to go through papers with me? Oh, yeah, I'll go through papers. And I got home, not only Mother was on the front porch, but Dad was out in the car looking for me because I had failed to say, hey, I'm going to go throw papers with Donnie. And, anyone who knows my parents, that was not a good outcome. Perfectly innocent, but, we're just not quite there yet as far as thinking through, what we need to do and what's best for us. I thought it was something perfectly innocent. So, mom and dad would be just fine with me being out till 2:30 in the morning throwing papers. But that does kind of go along. At the time, as a teenager, I'm thinking, I was with Donnie. If we're doing something innocent. But I look back now and go, they had no idea where I was. None. And we're not there at that level of being responsible. So I just related that one because when you told your story, that popped in my head, and I went, oh my goodness.
And what is amazing is you remember every detail of these things, go, ooh, how could I? But those kind of things happen all the time. And think about how many people weren't as blessed as I was to have a mom and a dad to do those things. There's millions of young people out there. Hopefully somebody, maybe you, will be that person to set the example for them. This wasn't the last one. The last one I've written down was I was probably in my late 40s or so, which has already been a year or two ago. Don't say anything, Marvin. My dad called one evening late on a Wednesday evening and said my mom had taken a tumble and she was down. So I eased over there. It was a real cold, rainy Wednesday evening. So I went over to the house, and there in the carport, there was my mom down on the ground. And I was almost mad at her. I said, how could you be out on a night like this, and why would you do that? All right? You know what she told me? I still remember it just like it was yesterday. She said, we've got to set the example. That was her words. I cried on the spot because I was almost mad at her. And with that kind of a response back to me, I'm thinking, she's just doing what she's done for the last 50 years. She set the example over and over and over again for us from when we were born until she died. You have people like that. You relate to it. We were always the first ones in, the last ones out. Always taking care of people, their needs, going the extra mile. She was always prepared, whether she was teaching a class, Bible class, or something I would see them study and be ready for that. Always there to help other people. And running a race, like the good book says, to the end. Did it. That's a tough example to follow. There comes the girl that said yes, and it was, so y'all know, 48 years ago. We're still working on it. So, it brings back to life what we read to start, where it says an example in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. I don't know how my mom could have set a better example for me, or why I wavered so many times from it, with it being right there. But that was my choice. We have a choice. So I'm hoping that each of you think about these things and maybe figure out if someone's not that lucky one that has that mom or a dad or an aunt or a grandmother, they're all going to need that help. There's somebody out there that we can help with individually. And I wrote there, it come full circle. Excuse me. It's our turn now to do that. Can we retire? That's a question with a question mark. In this race we're running and the example we're setting, can we retire? Can we quit? Both Carolines are shaking their head no. So,
Harry, I think the
go ahead.
thing is that no matter what age we are, it seems like there's always eyes on us. When you were 13 and 14, the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds were watching.